Okay, so for a first question, nice easy one. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Mark O'Halloran. I'm a partner and head of commercial services at Coffee Muse Solicitors.
Okay, so we're here today to talk a lot about Brexit and its impact on the games industry. Before we go into talking about the games industry in specifics, I mean, what have you made of the overall situation that's been going on in the country? What kind of landscape are we living in now from a legal perspective?
Uncertain times, and actually from lawyers' point of view, quite worried. There's a lot of quite senior lawyers, especially in intellectual property law, who are concerned that if we leave the EU, if we leave the harmonised intellectual property arena, our law will become increasingly irrelevant and disregarded by the rest of the world.
And that matters to individual businesses because?
In the digital sector, because intellectual property is the key thing that protects their product.
Okay, so we've got that potential challenge coming up ahead, and I mean, are there other legal challenges as well that Brexit is presenting, and that could be affecting businesses across the world, and particularly in the UK, of course?
Well, the key thing now is the timetable
Yes.
and the terms on which we exit, and then we'll re-engage in the European Union. Now, most people, and I'm one of them, think it's inconceivable we will not agree some kind of partnership treaty with the EU to preserve things like free movement of goods, access to banking services, access to professional services, and certainly access to digital services. Part of that will be agreeing to competition law, which most companies in the UK will have to comply with anyway, whether we're in or outside of the EU, if we trade with the European Union. And I think the key criteria is going to be what restrictions, if any, do we agree on free movement of workers.
Sure, and in terms of, there's a few people out there who are still hoping that Brexit isn't going to happen, that someone's going to roll it back and we're all going to take it back. What would you say to them?
Well, on a strict legal sense, the referendum result was advisory, but I don't think anyone believes on a political sense that it wasn't a binding decision. There's a question now whether the Prime Minister, whoever that person may be, can trigger Article 50 to begin the exit period without a vote in Parliament. I think even today 1,000 barristers wrote to the government to say they thought they needed primary legislation. However, it seems inconceivable we will not begin an exit negotiation. From my point of view, I think what matters is what replaces our strict membership, some kind of, if not associate membership, then some kind of partnering agreement, which will replicate a great deal of what is best about the EU.
And so for games businesses, I think you've touched upon a few issues that are going to be concerning games businesses in particular. What areas do you think they really need to be paying particular attention to in the coming weeks and months as negotiations take place?
It's going to be that area of intellectual property, and it's only been a few years since we had the USOF decision from the ECJ allowing the resale of downloaded digital content, and that's been a big factor for many games developers. Yeah. Whether this is a good or bad thing for the games industry remains to be seen, because if we pull out of the EU, we may not be subject to that ECJ decision, and we may be able to implement controls on the right to resell digital content such as games.
Sure, and what things as well about privacy law, data privacy? I think that's one of the other key areas of concern. I know there's been, I'm not a legal expert, but I know there's certainly been some tension between the EU and the US. With us leaving the European Union, will there sort of be a replication of that tension between the EU and the UK when it comes to data privacy, or what kind of legislation will come in to replace that?
I think it's unlikely, and I think, of course, we just, I think either today or this week, we're going to have final approval of the new Privacy Shield, which replaces the safe harbour regime between the EU and the US. So the worst case scenario for the UK, if we don't agree to still sign up to harmonised data protection rules, is we'll enter into a similar kind of Privacy Shield arrangement.
Sure. And so as one final question upon this, obviously there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment and businesses aren't really sure about what they should be doing. When games businesses are thinking about things from a legal perspective, what advice would you have for them, say, for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, and then next couple of years?
Next couple of weeks is don't panic. You don't need to change anything. It's at least 2 years before exit can happen, because we haven't even triggered Article 50 yet.
Sure.
Going forward, it would be, and despite people like me saying there's going to be some kind of replication of the current arrangements commercially as far as possible, if you currently trade with the US, or you know people who do, look at how they manage their relationships with customers and suppliers and start planning to implement that for customers and suppliers in the EU.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for taking your time to.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.